Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hoping everybody's starting to file into the room. Here we are, another Monday. We are not going to be presenting slides, so I will not be I will not be speaking to you without looking at you directly in the eyes. So hopefully I've got that problem fixed.
I'm just going to take a peek at the Facebook page to see who's there.
Yeah. This is going to be the extension of business planning. We're going from sort of that first step to planning 102.
Okay.
And hopefully, all of you have some questions. We are looking forward to answering as many questions as possible. So please.
Okay. We are definitely live. Everything looks like it's working, Richard.
Thank you. I am not going to go there with those presentations again.
No.
Okay. So we've got a little bit of prepared remarks or conversation Myrna and I want to have on the subject. Myrna's going to start off, but again, this is really for all of you to pose some questions, ideas. We want to not just be the experts, but we want to be a sounding board and for the discussion to kind of fuel ideas between all of you as well. So this is, certainly an interactive dialogue. So I'm going to hand it off to Myrna.
All right. So I don't know if any of you saw my email I sent out this morning from Travel Business Mastermind, but it was all about goals because when you're talking about business planning, you obviously you want to start with the end in mind. And so that first goal that we usually ask our clients about is how much do you want to make? Like, what is your business goal for your business? And a lot of times people will say something like, I want to generate $5,000 of commissions a month or $10,000 of commissions a month. And that's good. But what my email was about is that leaves something very important out: your expenses, your actual profit, your actual net income. And so sometimes when we think about goals, we focus on this big number like, oh, I want to do $1 million in sales and win the award. And that's wonderful. But how much money are you going to take home from that? And so we like to encourage people to look at that income number that they need to pay their bills, put money in their retirement plan, pay their health insurance, whatever it is that you want this travel business to support, you need to figure out what that number is. And then we work back from there. And then once we know kind of what you want to make, and then what you like to work on and the clients that make you the most money, which is what we talked about a couple weeks ago. And then we also talked about your why, which is what you love to do. Then we can put all of that together to start building your actual business plan. Right, Richard?
Yes. In fact, it's really interesting that Myrna brought up a concept that we hear a lot is, oh, I think I need to make this much per month because people are thinking about their expenses per month. I've got my rent per month, my mortgage per month. And that's one of the reasons why a business plan and a cash flow statement is important, because if you don't know how money flows through, but you know what your expenses look like, both your business and your personal expenses, if you're not understanding how that money flows through, you could come up short on any given month, and you don't want those headaches.
Yeah. The other thing that happens often is, you'll have, you're making $5,000 a month in your agency and you want to grow. And so you say, well, I want to double that. I want to make 10,000 a month. And what you don't realize is usually there's extra expenses that come along with that growth. It's not just all profit, right? Because maybe you need to hire an assistant to help you with some things when you have that much business. Maybe you need to go on more fam trips. So if you suddenly want to start selling a bunch of safaris and you need to go to Africa because you haven't been in 10 years, you have to factor all of that in. A lot of times we think that, oh, I had a great month. And then you end up signing up for those conferences or those extra events, extra fam trips, and all of those expenses need to be factored in. So we use a system in travel that we teach in Travel Business Mastermind called Profit First. And we'll talk about that more on a future call because today we want to focus on business planning. But you kind of need to know your numbers. So an easy way to do it is to just look at your last year's tax return and look at how much revenue you brought into your travel business, how much you spent, and then how much you actually took home. And just take that as a percentage to start with. Because if you know that percentage is either 50% or 30%, whatever it happens to be for you, if it's 50%, you know that if you do $10,000 of commissions, half of that is going to go towards all of your business expenses and investments in your business. And then the other half is your actual take home pay. And so that is how we get like that very first number in your business plan that we then work backwards to get there.
And working backwards to get there is really the secret to good business planning. We talked last week or 2 weeks ago about how the best way to get to a big goal is to break it down into its parts. And we talked about this guy Tom, this hypothetical travel advisor who is struggling with the amount of hours he puts into his job. He's struggling with growing the business. He kind of knows some basic numbers on looking at his tax returns and looking at some back of the envelope calculations. And he's going, okay, right now I'm making like $25 an hour. I need to make more like $75 an hour to do this on a weekly basis in order to support myself, my family, my household, whatever. Well, putting that big number out there and maybe projecting what that means in total travel sales can feel impossible to get to. It can feel paralyzing. Well, how do I get there? And that's why we feel that one of the most important things is for you to base everything on facts as much as you can. And we'll kind of walk you through that toward the end of the conversation. But one of the frameworks that we like to use is called the customer value journey. Myrna teaches it as part of our 12-week training program. And what it does is it looks at how the client comes through the sales funnel, how they work through the sales process, into exactly when they start becoming a client. They've agreed to a consultation. Now they might be open to add-ons because they're agreeing to give you a credit card for the basic elements of a trip. And then what does that look like all the way to the finish line when that client returns from their vacation? And if you think about that framework as a path to understanding what your business plan should look like, you start to understand the larger components of a business plan and then how to start breaking them down. And so, for example, if the very last thing that you do is you contact a client for feedback, you contact them for a potential testimonial, if you have got them to that point where they're happy clients, you're going to start to glean information that feeds into your core products and services. But from there, what happens before that step? Well, before that client returning, you're monitoring them while they're on their trip. They may be contacting you through WhatsApp or another tool to say, hey, now the airport transfer didn't show up. So now you're starting to get some other feedback about, okay, that's that airport transfer, that DMO, that DMC that I'm working with, and they kind of failed me in this occasion. That's part of your business planning. If you're going after high-end luxury travelers, if that's going to be your business plan, then you've got to think about the DMOs and DMCs that you work with. And that all starts to work its way back to step number one, which is your why, understanding who you are first, what that means about the brand that you want to project out. And just so that we're clear, branding is not just about logos. Logos are part of a brand, but the bigger elements of a brand include things like the services you provide, the suppliers you're aligned with, the way that you interact with your clients on a day-to-day basis, the types of travel that you try to sell mostly. And when I say project your brand out, it's about all of those things. So don't sort of limit yourself to this is, my logo, and therefore that's who I am. It's so much deeper than that. And all of those deeper elements can be reverse engineered into your business plan. So, for example, if your first step was, Tom, and Tom is like, I think I know who my ideal client is. I looked inside my CRM. I kind of have a feeling, a heart, and an intuition for who that person is. That's sort of Tom's, qualitative view, because he knows when he's happy. He knows when a client's happy and that he gets up every day and he's energized to go take care of clients and bring new ones in. That's his why. But he kind of knows what that person looks like, but then he's got to go validate it based on numbers. And those numbers both come internally and externally. So internally, that's mostly his CRM. Who has he booked like this? What did they earn him? Were they the kinds of commissions that he wanted? Who are those suppliers? And as he starts to get to know those suppliers, what are the bonus commission opportunities working with those suppliers? And then he needs to start understanding, well, how many of those clients may exist in the world? Are there, if I only like to do business with people within an hour's drive from me, there are some ways that you can get at numbers like that, either through using US Census Bureau data. You can go into Facebook and get an estimate based on a Facebook ad audience that you create. Well, I'm looking for somebody who loves FITs. That's one of Tom's areas of focus. I'm looking for someone who loves the freedom to book a tour the way they want. They don't want to be restricted.
They don't want to be on a bus.
Don't want to be on a bus. And they come from neighborhoods that can spend the kind of money that an Abercrombie and Kent or a Kensington Tours or one of these other higher end tour companies offers. Well, he can start to get an estimate of how many people are like that in that universe. So now he's also quantifying for his business plan. Is it viable? Are there enough people in the universe that I'm searching through based on the ideal client that I'd like to bring in to make enough money to hit that $75 an hour and the income that I'm looking for? So, he would have to validate all of that facts as well as, what's inside his heart and his intuition. And that's the base level step, because if he doesn't get that right, then it's going to be harder to move on to step two. And step two is what Myrna was saying before. Now you got to start calculating it. Now you've got to start throwing those numbers into a business plan that says, well, there's 12,000 people like that in my area, and I don't want to do business with people I can't visit personally. Okay, well, if you said you needed 75 of those a year, can you get 75 of 12,000 people? Now you're starting to get into some real numbers and starting to identify, if you were to put out a marketing plan, how many impressions would you need? What would their click-through rate to your lead offer look like? And then you can start to think about how you have to close and how you have to get your sales script together. And now all of that climbs the ladder.
Yeah. And what I wanted to say is, just tagging on to what Richard said, is don't get scared by the word business plan, because I know a lot of times when we think of business plans, we think of those like 30-page documents and that you have to submit when you apply for an SBA loan or something, and really complicated. And this is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, what we mean by business plan is you have a good 1 to 2 page little summary of who you're going after, how are you going to get them, what is it going to cost you, how much money are you going to make, and what's your potential profit. So some people do it on 1 page, some people do it in 4 to 5 pages, but it doesn't have to be something complicated and overwhelming. So just, so don't let that scare you away, because the value of it is when you go through the exercise, you get clarity on where your business is going. And when you have that clarity, then you automatically start making better decisions. So when you get leads, you screen them out better. When you are out talking about what you do, you can more succinctly and accurately express that to people that you meet, say at an event or, at a wine dinner or whatever. But you need to have that clarity in order to develop your brand and speak about your business effectively, whether you're doing it in writing or in person.
And most of our clients, their business plans rarely get over 6 or 7 pages. They're really that simple. They're more focusing documents that give you the ability to memorialize something, go out, test it, and then come back and refine it. So if you assumed that a close rate of 30% was going to, help you reach that big goal, and you find out that no, you need a sales close rate of higher than 40%, now you can start looking at your sales funnel and say, okay, why am I not closing on a higher percentage? Is it because the quality of the leads coming in aren't that strong? I'm getting a lot of people who are bottom fishers, or they're discretionary income people who really don't have discretionary income. They've got a smaller budget than I'm looking for. It could be that the way your sales scripts are working, that you're not engaging them and exciting them. It could be a host of things. But if you don't have
that, you're not following up enough. I mean, if you only call people back once or twice, that's not going to work. It takes at least 6 to 7 contacts to really decide if it's a good lead or not. So there's just so all of this is things that you put in your business plan. And like Richard said, you test it, you see what works, you see what doesn't work, what's not working, you tweak. You're always getting, because I like what he said about fact-based planning at the very beginning, because we do want to look at your actual facts of the situation. Yes, some of us have a really good gut instinct about our businesses and about things, and that's great. But you should always validate that with actual numbers. So I've talked to people that tell me that their close rate is 50%, but when I actually look in their CRM, their close rate is more like 20%. And if you're operating off of the wrong assumption, then your plan is probably not going to get to your goal. So you just have to be honest with yourself and just put it out there. It doesn't matter what your close rate is. Like if you're brand new, it may only be 10%. If you've been doing this forever, you're so good at filtering out the bad ones that you close like 80% of them. It just depends. Every business is different. You just need to know what your number is. And that's what we put in your business plan.
Yep. And the beautiful thing about using an email host where you're having prospects come in and you're loading it up in your CRM like HubSpot. The nice thing is your date and time stamping things. If you are qualifying somebody and making notes, you can pull reports that can very easily say, okay, when I finally got to the end of the conversation with the person, they told me what their budget was, and I inputted that consistently over 50 prospects. You can now come back to your business plan and say, oh, I was actually attracting people at 70% of what I thought would be the person who would buy this particular type of tour. And maybe that's a fact for you to go, okay, then maybe my ads aren't attracting the right people. I need to change the language, because you're tracking facts, you're tracking data. And don't be afraid of that, because after a while, when you're running a few reports and you're getting used to it, you're going to say, this makes life easier. It gives you, some of us go on a journey and we are wanderers, and we just know that I am going to walk from here, to 5 miles away, and I don't know how I'm going to get there. And some of us are really good at that. Others of us need directions. We want to know where we're going to make a left or a right-hand turn. A business plan based on facts, it's just those directions, and you'll get used to it. So I'm not seeing any questions yet here.
No questions. It's quiet today. So no questions today. It's quiet. So why don't we just kind of wrap up?
Yep.
Do you want to?
Yeah. So if we're going to summarize today's discussion, number one is you can achieve success with business plans without paralyzing yourself because of the concept being ambiguous and nebulous. You can break it down in component parts that are based on the value journey, which you already know. You operate daily knowing how a client comes into the sales funnel, how they work through, how they become a customer after they've paid. You know all of that. And if you break down that journey into your business plan, you can start to see the things that you may have to review, test, and enhance based on where you want to go with your business. But like we said, you've got to start with facts. If you pull your data at the very beginning, and what you realize, like Tom did, is that too many people were buying products that make him earn $25 an hour versus $75. If you're basing that on facts, and you now know where you want to go to, you've got the data to get there. You've got the data to say, these are the kinds of clients that come in. I'll recognize them the next time. If I don't want to deal with them because I want to try to bring in somebody else, I'll do marketing and advertising that's better for that type of client. And you can slowly start to change your business and point it in the direction that you want to go. This is not difficult stuff, but it does take, you're putting time aside to do it. And it does take you getting ready to memorialize things, to not just do things from intuition, but to try to write things down, even if at first all it is in a journal. Even if you're just starting with a journal, that's a great way to start thinking about how to bring those pieces into a business plan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like the one pager. So whenever I'm thinking about, I don't know, if I want to promote a group tour, say, or like I have some ladies that want me to plan a trip to Greece for just ladies only. I'll like just open up a Word document and I'll go, okay, what is this thing going to cost? How many people do I need? Who do I have in my, and just make myself a plan. How do I promote this? What emails am I going to send out? Who am I going to send it to? Am I going to do a Facebook ad? What kind of leads can I get? I mean, it's literally like a one pager. And just to know that, just to memorialize, like Richard said, your thoughts, your plans, and then you take action based on it, and then you adjust the plan based on the results of that action. It's that simple. And it's just a great way to keep yourself moving forward in your business, as opposed to just in survival mode, because I know that this is that time of year where we're all super busy. Now we are dealing with this coronavirus in China. I'm having to like rebook a bunch of people. It's crazy. And when it's crazy, you get stuck in survival mode in your business. And when you're in survival mode, you can't move forward because you're just treading water. You're literally just treading water. And like Richard said, you have to make the time. So maybe you have to do it on the weekend. Maybe you have to do it at night, maybe first thing in the morning, whatever works for you. Take out that hour or two to just like step back and go, yes, I'm going to deal with that later. But right now I have to think about, where's my business going? Am I on track for the goals I set at the beginning of the year? And if I'm not, what am I going to do differently to try to correct course? If you don't take that time to work on your business on a consistent basis, you're just going to get carried away in the current, and it's just going to go where it goes. And the end of the year is going to come and you're going to be like, oh my God, it's exactly like last year. So I encourage you to just make the time to really think about where you want to go, what your plan is to get there, and then take action.
Yep. Just one last note from me. I just wrote a story for Travel Market Report. Don Caprella, who's Quality Travel Solutions, he was interviewed with me about how he does business planning. He does it between Thanksgiving and Christmas. He pulls out his business plan from the previous year. He reviews how he has journeyed against his goals. And then he thinks about, and what do I want to do next year? Is this working for me? Can I just tweak things and make it better? Are there client categories I want to get rid of because the numbers say they're not making me enough money given where I want to go? So Don kind of does that between the Thanksgiving and Christmas period, when he says for him, things get slow. And this way, when January 1st comes, he has a clear sight of what he's going to do for the next 12 months based on the goals that he set and the things that he knows he needs to accomplish along the way. So everybody can do this. It is not, only for the purview of people who are consultants and, people who work at SCORE or the Small Business Administration. This is something every entrepreneur can do. You can do it too. And we encourage you to stay on this journey with us on Facebook Live, to continue talking about business planning over the next few months. And then we're going to start to engage some outside speakers into the group, to start going off to some other niches and some other categories. So feel free to messenger us about things you'd like for us to talk about.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Love to be responsive to issues that you're facing, and maybe set up a whole Facebook Live just about the issue that you raised. So please stay in touch and be proactive. We're going on this great journey together in 2020.
Yeah, tell us what you want us to talk about. We're happy to cover it. Either put it in the comments or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.
Great.
All right. Well, Have a great rest of your Monday. Bye.
Bye.